Hey everyone, it's Miss Solomon here, and we're going to dive into book one of Homer's The Iliad. And book one is often called The Quarrel, especially in our textbook here, in the Emily Wilson translation that the Norton has recently adopted for its new edition. So, before having watched this video, I trust that you've already attempted to read book one so that this reading guide can reinforce what you read or help you to see it in a new light. So, book one has some pretty famous stuff in it. My goal is to guide you through some of the most important moments of this first book and reiterate some concepts and vocabulary that we learned last week through the Epic of Gilgamesh. We'll read key passages together, unpack what's happening, and I'll kind of talk about why it matters for the story as a whole if it's appropriate. In these guided reading videos, I will stick with this kind of talking head model because we are looking at a copyrighted translation of Homer's The Iliad. So I want to make sure that I follow federal copyright laws and just let this be you and me. Think of it as just me and you with our textbooks, just chatting about the reading assignment as if we were in a real classroom together. And you just get to see me nerd out a little bit, I guess, over these next several videos. So I hope that you have your book. I have my book. And if you have it open and ready, please turn to page 167 of Volume A. So let's start at the very beginning of the epic. This Greek epic poem, unlike the Mesopotamian epic about Gilgamesh that we read last week, will definitely begin with a didactic invocation of the muse. We presume that the goddess called upon in the first line is the muse named Calliope, who in the Greek tradition is considered the muse of epic poetry, naturally. This muse is called upon for strength, guidance, clarity, and follow through, all of which you need to get through a large story like this one. So, if you are on page 167 of Volume A of your textbook, feel free to follow along as I read through the first several lines of Book One. Goddess, sing of the cataclysmic wrath of great Achilles, son of Peleus, which caused the Greeks immeasurable pain and sent so many noble souls of heroes to Hades, and made men the spoils of dogs, a banquet of birds. See first that Homer directs the muse to sing, because it's goddess, sing. The melodic grandiosity of this narrative is set in stone by the very first line. So this means to us, if we analogize it well, that it will have its ups and downs, its crescendos and its lulls. Therefore, we can also expect a great adventure, one that will end with some arguably beautiful elements to it. We take beauty with a grain of salt, and it's in the eye of the beholder. But there are some beautiful, at least transformative moments in this epic, and of course, the language will be pretty too. So we got that going for us. Next, notice that in these lines, Homer doesn't begin with the hero's birth or the tragic war of the Trojan War background, or even the beginning of the Trojan War. He begins with anger. He begins in medias res, or in the middle of things, just like every epic story should and does. Chronologically, too, we're just thrown into the action of the Trojan War 10 years in. Instead of an origin story, we're introduced to the magnitude of Achilles' entire wrath, which will be the driving force of the whole poem. Hear me clearly when I say this. The poem's central driving force is Achilles' wrath. Therefore, when his wrath ceases, the poem will end, and that will be our indicator. Notice also Emily Wilson translates this driving force to cataclysmic wrath. Not just anger, but something absolutely devastating, um, much greater. The tone of the poem at the outset, because of this first line, is destruction, loss, and the consequences of unchecked emotions. So, this ends my discussion of how Homer invokes the muse and sets the stage for the whole epic. Now let's move to my second section of this reading guide to unpack the origin of the conflict. Most generally, all narratives and stories exist because of conflict. You can't have a story without conflict, then what's the point? The origin of the epic's conflict in this case is a confrontation between Agamemnon, the war general of the Greek side of the Trojan War, and then Croesus, who is an Apolloan priest or a priest who serves the god Apollo. And Apollo, we will learn, is sympathetic to the Trojan cause. So this whole confrontation scene in book one sets off a chain reaction. So essentially, Croesus' daughter, Croesus, bear with me with all of these names that sound the same, has been taken. Croesus, the daughter, has been taken as a prize of war. She is Agamemnon's prize in particular. So Croesus, the priest, offers a ransom to free his daughter. In Greek culture, this is standard. No qualm, usually. A ransom was a form of honor exchange. Agamemnon's ego is wounded by this whole scenario. If he is great and if he's a powerful general, and if he is that thing that he claims to be, then he would, in this culture, have all of the women, all of the weapons, all of the power, and the soldiers, and all the things. So this confrontation about his prize of war is spiritually emasculating for Agamemnon. He's very, very mad. As you can see, if you turn to page 168 and look around line 39, it reads, and this is Agamemnon speaking, "Be off with you, old man. You must not let me catch you lingering here beside our hollow ships a moment longer. And if you ever come back here again, your staff and diadem will not protect you." Talking about, the insignias of his priesthood, that staff and the diadem, which was kind of like a crown of sorts. I will not let her go. And he means this in the most possessive sense. While the ransom is supposed to be the honor exchange, Agamemnon insults Croesus publicly in these lines, which dishonors not just Croesus the priest, but the god Apollo. So Agamemnon's pride, his arrogance, his hubris brings Apollo's plague upon the Greek army. Such a plague was easy for Apollo to start because he doesn't stand with the Greeks anyway. And Agamemnon's disrespect just kind of gave Apollo a reason to retaliate. So there we are. Right away, we're going to see a trend. Pride and anger are personal flaws, but they affect entire communities. Leaders and their choices, they have like this ripple effect so very often. So that's the origin of the quarrel. Priest wants his daughter back because she's a prize of war for Agamemnon and tries to do it the honorable way. And Agamemnon is big mad. Which leads us to the third section of my guided reading video here today. What we just looked at is the conflict that triggers the great quarrel of book one that escalates Achilles' rage to this cataclysmic proportion. And the essence of the fight, we will we will know too well. We've seen this story before between the top soldier Achilles and his war general Agamemnon. Not to mention, these two men go at it while everyone around them is sick and dying as a result of Apollo's plague, which makes it even more telling about how important each of them believes they are. I'll be as real with y'all about this as I can, if I may. So I think it's even referred to in the text and the scholarship. This quarrel in book one between Achilles and Agamemnon is over booty or prize of war. And I don't mean that as a slang term, although it will absolutely mean the same thing. This fight is over a woman. So let's look at page 170. I get mine to 170. And starting at the bottom of page 170, around line 151. 151. This is one of the most famous arguments in literary history. There are going to be some other ones, but this one stands out, especially early in the book. So Agamemnon and Achilles at this stage on page 170, they're going to exchange insults, and it leads ultimately to Agamemnon threatening to take Achilles' prize, Briseis. So let's see what's going on here in this little quarrel. This is Agamemnon speaking. I want the girl Chryseis in my home. I like her more than my own Clytemnestra, my wife. You see, she is no worse than her in figure, height, intelligence, or skill, but I am still prepared to give her back if that is best. I want the army safe, not dead. Now go, find me another trophy. So I am not the only Greek commander who likes a trophy. That would be unfair. You can all see my trophy going elsewhere. Then here comes Achilles. Swift-footed Lord Achilles answered him, Lord Agamemnon, no one is more acquisitive than you. How can the valiant Greeks give you a trophy? We see no heaps of treasure lying around ready to be divided up. The wealth that we have looted from the neighboring towns has been shared out, and it would be unfair to make the warriors return it all. You have to send this woman to the god right now. One day, we Greeks will pay you back with treasure worth 3 times as much, or 4, if ever Zeus permits us to destroy the high-walled town of Troy. So Achilles stands up first to say something because I think he intuitively knows where Agamemnon will turn to steal some booty. In a nutshell, Agamemnon figures that if he has to give back Chryseis, then he should be able to take Achilles' prize of war, Briseis, to settle the score. Agamemnon is the leader, after all, and he believes that he deserves the best of the prizes. To cover for his own humiliation, he threatens Achilles' honor. For the Greeks, Time, spelled Time with a overscore over the E, which translates to honor, respect, and the tangible signs of one's wealth, that was everything back then. So when Agamemnon says he'll take Briseis from Achilles and have her for himself, it is a full-on attack on his identity as the best warrior among the Greeks. So after arguing a little bit more, Achilles is pretty much like, yeah, okay, I'll just go home. On page 172, starting around line 201, Achilles says this, incredible. You dress in shame. You are obsessed with getting profits for yourself. Which of the Greeks would willingly agree to make a trip because you told them to, or fight against an enemy for you? I did not come to Troy because I wanted to fight against the warriors of Troy. They never did me any harm at all. They never raided cows from me, nor horses, nor blighted fertile fields that feed the men of Plethia, far away across so many shadowy hills, reverberating seas. I came with you, you brazen cheat, to please you, to claim back compensation from the Trojans for Menelaus and for you, you dog face. But none of that means anything to you. You don't even care. And now you threaten to take away the trophy that I worked for after the sons of Greece gave it to me? You always get a better one than mine. When we sack any wealthy Trojan town, my hands work hardest in the frenzied fighting. And when we share the spoils, you get much more. I come back to the ships worn out from battle with something valuable to me, but small. So I will go back home to Plithia now in my curved ships, because that is much better. I will not stay here to be disrespected, serving up wealth and revenue for you. That's so, it's way too relatable. So then they proceed to argue a little bit more, and Achilles gets so mad that Athena, who is sympathetic to the Greek side of the war, comes down from Mount Olympus to basically say to Achilles, listen, dude, don't kill him. Just tear him down with your words instead, and let there not be any violence that can come back to you about this whole situation. So Achilles does what Athena says, but he's still adamant about leaving the war. So they argue a little bit longer. And on page 176, we have a famous passage by Achilles in response to Agamemnon saying how shameful it would be for Achilles to leave. So Agamemnon's shaming him and being like, oh, well, you're not really a man if you leave the war. But then Achilles says this on page 176, starting around line 389. Achilles says, I would be surely called a coward and a nonentity if I bowed down to follow you in everything you say. Go lay your orders onto other men, but do not ever tell me what to do. I am all done with listening to you, but I will tell you this. Take it to heart. I will not use my hands to fight with you about a woman or with anyone. Though you gave her to me, then took her back. But I will keep the other things I have besides my swift black ship. You cannot come and steal a single one of them from me. And if you try, let these men be the witness. Your black blood will soon spurt around my spear. So he's kind of like, well, yeah, honestly, it would be more damaging to my reputation to continue following such a terrible leader. I'm going to take the rest of my stuff. And if you try to cross me about it, I'll kill you. So, um, I love this section because we get just a small glimpse of how Achilles will mix his rage with his role as a philosopher in the epic. He asks the hard questions in his disillusionment. But with that, Achilles steps away from the war effort altogether. His personal wrath becomes a world shaping force because now the Greeks, at least in theory, are more vulnerable than they've ever been without Achilles there. And Achilles is so mad that he goes on a search for his mom, which is the topic of this fourth section of the book one guided reading video here that I'd like to explore with you. So turn to page 178 in your book and read along with me, starting at line 465, where he literally gets in a prayer stance at the feet of his mother, Achilles does, at the feet of his mother Thetis, and says through tears, "Mother, you birthed me for so short a life that Zeus, high god of thunder on Olympus, should give me glory at the very least, but I get nothing. Now this Lord of Lords, this Agamemnon, son of Atreus, has disrespected me. He took my trophy. He seized it and now keeps it for himself." We get it, right? We get it. Having a sympathetic year, I think in these grand times when emotions are really high and egos stricken, we go to that safe space. So his mom asks what's wrong, and then he goes and tells the entire story over again. And Achilles asks his mom, Thetis, to go to Zeus, the king of the gods, to beg him to tilt the war in favor of the Trojans. Think about that. Achilles is so angry at his own side, he wants his enemies to win. That's how deeply personal honor drives the characters in this epic. And so Thetis will go because she wants to protect her son against this scary prophecy about his death that she so desperately seeks to avoid. Good mom. She says, starting on page 179, kind of there at the very bottom of 179, starting at line 546, she says, "To Zeus, my boy, my child." No, this is to, even I get confused sometimes. No, yeah, this is to Zeus. Why am I being crazy? See? Hey, take a lesson from me. Stop doubting yourself. Because I still do it all the time. Okay. So this is what she says. "My boy, my child, why did I birth you for such suffering? Why did I mother you? Take care of you. I wish you could sit quietly by your ships and never have to suffer tears or trouble, because it is your destiny to live so very short a time, not long at all. So very short a time, not at all. Not even as your death runs fast behind you, you are the most unhappy man alive. A curse attended at your birth. I shall go to Olympus, where the snow lies deep, and talk to Zeus, who loves the thunderbolt. I hope I can persuade him, and meanwhile sit by your ships and rage against the Greeks, and stay entirely away from war. Yesterday, Zeus went off to Ocean, joining the noble Ethiopians for a feast. The gods all went with him, but in 12 days he will come back again to Mount Olympus, and then I shall go inside the house of Zeus and stand upon the pavement of bronze and take him by the knees and supplicate him. I think I shall persuade him." So this part is to Achilles, and the next part that I'm going to read to you is actually Thetis talking to Zeus, but she's making her plans, and she's going to go. She thinks that she can persuade him, but the problem is that Zeus is already secretly rooting for the Trojan cause. So this will be an easy sale, to say the least. On the whole, this scene between Achilles and his mother Thetis also shows the interwoven worlds of gods and humans. We will move constantly in this story between battlefield and Olympus. Battlefield and Olympus. Mortals and their quarrels become divine quarrels, and vice versa each time. So now let's look at specifically where Thetis goes and talks to Zeus to beg Zeus to favor the Trojans, even though he already favors the Trojans. But she's being a good mom and doing it anyway. But there's going to be another reason, because somebody's watching. So Thetis makes her way to Mount Olympus, finds Zeus, kneels, puts her left hand on his knee, and her right hand on his face, kind of around his chin. There are famous paintings that depict this posture that she assumes to address Zeus. And so, if you are on page 182, starting around line 653-ish in the middle of the page, Thetis will say, Father Zeus, if I have ever helped you in a word or deed among the gods, fulfill this prayer for me and glorify my son, whose fate runs faster after him than any mortal's. Now, Lord Agamemnon has disrespected him. He took his trophy to keep himself. Wise Zeus, Olympian, honor him. Give the Trojans power until the Greeks respect my son and grant him glory. A little further down toward the bottom of page 182, Zeus replies, You have imposed on me a dreadful task, to make an enemy of Hera, queen of the gods, who is always scolding me. Among the deathless gods, she always blames me and says I helped the Trojans in the war. You have to leave now, in case Hera sees you. But I will try my best to grant your wish, and so that you will trust me, I shall nod, my firmest guarantee among the gods. When I have nodded with my head, my word is trustworthy, irrevocable, sure. What I have promised must be carried out. But of course, Hera always knows everything. And she knows everything about what just happened here because she's the queen. She and Zeus bicker back and forth a little bit more here on page 183. Notoriously, Zeus and Hera are always fighting about something, even though he is secretly rooting for the Trojans in this story, he absolutely cannot tell Hera that because Hera is still mad at Paris because Paris chose Aphrodite as the most beautiful of the gods and not Hera. So she's a god scorned here. She's rooting for the Greeks. Zeus claims that he doesn't want to have this feud with his wife, naturally speaking, but as we know Zeus to do, he's going to do what he wants. And Hera's going to do what she wants, for the most part. My personal favorite god, Hephaestus, the blacksmithing god, is going to show up on page 184. He's a sweet peacemaker for sure. He tries to calm Hera, who is his mother, by telling her that she and Zeus shouldn't be fighting over mortal affairs because it makes everybody miserable, and because he, Hephaestus, loves his mother and he naturally wants her to be happy too. So momentarily, Hera abides. She smiles, the muses sing. Zeus goes to sleep next to Hera, and all seems to be calm for a moment, but only a moment. I promise you that much. I also think that here at the end of book 1, that ends on page 185, we have this image of Zeus and Hera in bed together to show that this kind of symbolism that the war is alive and well. They're together in the same bed. Kind of keeping secrets from each other, kind of like this resentment. They have different allegiances. So the war is alive and well, but it's personal. So in this first book of the Iliad, we see seeds of everything that follows, really. Pride and honor shape decisions that bring suffering to entire armies, as we saw with the plague. Achilles' wrath becomes the poem's central force, and we're introduced to the way that the Iliad treats both humans and gods. Both are figures driven by deep, messy emotions. So when you read ahead, keep asking, how does this conflict over honor spiral outward? It will just all over the place. How does Achilles' choice in this book to leave the war drive the tragedy in the epic to follow? And how do the gods amplify or complicate human struggles? So often they will do it. So that's it for book one. Next time, we'll look at how these conflicts evolve on the battlefield itself. And I'm so glad that you stopped by for book one. Thank you for reading along with me, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.